Greetings everyone, this is Borko from Plumsail. In this video, I will guide you through simple steps to display assistants in Org Chart for SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. I will show you how to display assistants in case your data sources are SharePoint list, Entra ID or formerly Azure Active Directory, User Profiles, and Excel or CSV. The description section includes timestamps and links to the mentioned data sources, allowing you to quickly navigate to the specific instructions for the data source you need. Plumsail Org Chart has a few different layouts to choose from, and those are top to bottom compact, top to bottom classic, top to bottom with grouping of lives, left to right, and bottom to top. And in all of these layouts, assistants might be shown differently, and in the end of the video, we will see how it looks like. Let's see how to display assistants in SharePoint list as a data source first. This is how our employee list data looks like in SharePoint, and we have assistants column added which stores assistant ID. Very important in here is to match the column type for assistants and employee ID. So for simplicity purposes, I used single line of text for all columns. As an assistant ID, I will use the assistant's email. In here, I added only one assistant email, and it will show only a single assistant for this person, as you can see. In case you need help setting up your SharePoint list to look just like this, I will leave a link to the video on how to create an org chart from SharePoint list with step-by-step instructions in the description section. In this video, you can also find how to organize your SharePoint list so it can be used as a data source for org chart. There is a link for a 30-day free trial with no credit card required included as well. Simply register your account and try it out. All features are included in this trial period. And also, if you haven't subscribed, do so. More interesting content coming your way. Now let's get back to org chart and click on Configure. Select SharePoint list as a data source. Then select the list with all employees. You must select the mapping field for assistant ID as well, and that's the name of the column we created. It is assistant email. To be able to display multiple assistants for a regular single line of text list column, we can just use a semicolon to separate assistants' IDs in the SharePoint list, and in this case, email addresses, just like it's shown on the screen. But if you use any other unique identifier, you can repeat the process. We saw how it looks like when adding a single assistant, but let's quickly see how it looks like when adding multiple assistants to your SharePoint list, separating them by a semicolon, and how it looks like on the org chart. I will add 2 more assistants to this person, and assistants are separated by a semicolon, as you can see. And emails are used for assistant's ID, but you can use any other unique identifier like employee ID, SharePoint list ID, and as you can see, once refreshed, multiple assistants are shown and neatly displayed on the org chart. By default, there is no mapping for assistants in Entra ID. To be able to show assistants in Entra ID as a data source, I need to change the mapping in configuration wizard in org chart and select one of the extension attributes. I will select extension attribute 1, and this allows us to display only one assistant per manager. Now let's review where the data for assistants comes from. The most common scenario is shown on the screen, and that's when attributes are filled in Active Directory on premises, and then they are synchronized to Entra ID and then mapped to extension. But don't worry if it sounds too complicated. This is usually done by the IT team as they have all the necessary admin permissions to do this. In addition to synchronization from Active Directory on premises, there is another way to set attributes. It is to set extension attributes manually in Exchange Online Admin Center. Now open Exchange Online Admin Center and open mailboxes to set extension attributes manually. Select the contact you want to add an assistant to, then open Others, and then open Custom Attributes. You will see many attributes description fields, but I have chosen extension attribute 1 in the org chart mapping, and I will add the UPN for an assistant to this person. To add UPN, I will go back to Entra ID and find assistant's profile and copy UPN. Paste it to this attribute extension 1 and hit save. And this is a workaround to display assistance for org chart when your data source is Entra ID. Similarly, we can display assistance for user profiles. Org chart uses standard assistant property in SharePoint User Profiles. Assistants are enabled by default, and all you have to do is to specify assistant ID for mapping purposes if not already specified. To specify assistant ID in the org chart, we have to click on Configure, then we select User Profiles as a data source, and here you get to choose your ID for assistants. If you store your information for assistants in a different property, you will have to choose that property to make sure assistants are displayed properly. There might be a case when you want to add multiple assistants to a person, which we will explain next. As I mentioned moments earlier, if you want to add multiple assistants to an employee, you will have to create a custom property in User Profiles, as default assistant property supports only one assistant per employee. Go to User Profiles, click on Manage User Properties, then add new property, which I call multiple assistants. Make sure the type is string, single value, and increase the length for the field. Choose policy settings optional and default privacy settings to everyone, and save it. Now you should get a custom property in your user profiles for multiple assistants. Once we have a new property for assistants, we can fill it out with semicolon separated list of assistants using their account names, and you can find these account names in user profiles like in this example. Make sure you only use the email part of it without the prefix text. And now I will add a few assistants to this person to show how it looks like on the org chart. Please note in here that I separated assistant account names with semicolons. Once we do that, we must make sure to select the newly created custom property in the org chart for mapping purposes, so multiple assistants get displayed properly. And you can see that 3 assistants have been added to just below manual porous. The way to set up a single assistant for Excel or CSV as a data source is very similar to what we did with the SharePoint list as a data source. You can see how the spreadsheet with my employees look like and the columns I have in it. In the assistant email column, I will add an email from an assistant for a specified manager. In the configuration process, I will use the assistant email column as assistant ID, and this will add an assistant to a specified manager. In case we need to add multiple assistants to a manager when our data source is Excel or CSV, we will add assistants' emails in the email field and separate them with a semicolon, just like we did when our data source was SharePoint list. Add as many assistants as needed and make sure you separate them with a semicolon. And this is an easy way to add multiple assistants to a manager. Once we publish the org chart, we can go back at any time and reconfigure it. From here, you can add it to Microsoft Teams as a tab and share it with your employees. A separate video on how to do this is attached in the description section. And as I promised at the beginning of the video, I will show you how assistants are displayed in different layouts. As you can see, the assistants are displayed in top to bottom compact, top to bottom classic, top to bottom with grouping of leaves, left to right, bottom to top. They are well organized and visible. And that concludes today's video. Be sure to explore our org chart playlist for further insights. And remember to hit that like and subscribe button for more content. Until next time.